Hi everybody, this is going to be a quick tutorial about how to fix the floating metahuman head problem in Unreal Engine 5. So if you're watching this, you've probably created an animation a facial animation in Metahuman Animator, and you've gone to Sequencer and tried to apply it, and the head is flying off the body and not staying attached, and you are very sad. I'm going to show you how to go from this to this in a couple of easy steps. No control rig baking required. This runs in the animation post-process blueprint. It works across all your metahumans in your project, across the board, even at runtime, not sequencer, so you can run gameplay animations like this via montage. And it's really simple, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Here we go. Okay, first, let's dig into the source of the problem. When you recorded your facial animation and processed it through Metahuman Animator, you probably used the head movement mode with control rig. It looks nice here. But when it's applied to the character, it causes all kinds of issues. So where is that? In the content browser, you're going to go to Metahumans, Common, Face, and you want the ABP Face Post Process. Open that up. In the anim graph, you can see this is where it starts, and the next section over is this. Right here, it is running the control rig. If this enable head IK movement is on, it will generally run through this. Now, caveat, if you mess with this, if you turn this off, you need to turn this back on if you want to process more animations. That's important. Because we're going to be turning it off by default. So we are just going to bypass this control rig setup here because it needs some work. Somebody needs to look at that. So we are going to start the process by turning off enable head IK movement. This way will always be false and we'll not use this at all. So what happens if we do that? Well, if we go to our sequence and scrub through, we lose all of the head movement. We still have the facial animation, but we need to add the head movement back in. So I'm going to show you how I came up with doing that. I held Alt and click this to disconnect. And I'm going to move this over here, and we're going to make a new cache pose starting from the input pose here. So off of input pose, type in local to component. And then from here, you're going to type in transform, and you want transform modify bone. What this is going to do is apply a offset on the rotation values for the neck and head. So first we need to set the bone to modify. We're going to do neck 1. I'm going to do copy and paste. Come over here and add neck 2. Copy paste one more time. And here we're going to add head. Let's give it a little more room. String these up. We're going to do local to component again, or component to local this time. And now we're going to do a new cache pose. Save new cache pose. We're just going to call this new head rotation. Okay, that's that, but now we need to set these up. So we're not going to use translation or scale. We're only going to use rotation. We want to add to existing, and we want to set these to bone space. I have all of them selected, so all of them are changing. That's great, but it's not doing anything. It needs a rotation value. So let's make a rotation value. We're going to call this new head rotation. Plug this in to all of the rotators. But first, we need to hook up our new cache pose up here. Since we moved that out of the way, this won't do anything if we don't have this new cache pose. So type in new head rotation, and you will get a reference to your cache pose and plug it in there. Another important step is we need to change the alphas of these, because right now everything is at a power of 1. So all that rotation is going to be applied to every bone equally. We do not want that because that's going to triple the output of those curves. So we need to change the alphas. I like to put an alpha of 0.2 on the neck bones and 0.6 on the head bone, so it has a little more action to it. We're going to compile this. So let's set up the new head rotation variable. We're going to go over to the event graph. If it's not up there, you'll find it down here. It's empty by default, so we're going to go in here and search event blueprint update animation. We're going to add that, and then we're going to right click and do get curve value. And we're going to read the curve values that were created from our capture. So the first curve name should be head roll. We're going to copy and paste. The next one will be head pitch. And the third one will be head yaw. From here, we can drag off that pin and do make rotator, if I could spell, make rotator. And we're going to plug pitch, roll, and yaw into that. Now we have a rotator value. That is going to be our new head rotation that we created. So if we plug that into that, that is the basic setup. Now we have our head movement onto our character. That's the basics. That's all you need. If you want to get out of here, go for it. If you want to stick around, I'm going to show you ways to make this a little bit better. So this value, the values that come in on these curves can be a little bit harsh, a little bit jittery. So a good way to fix that is to ease the values. So if we drag off this rotator, we can type in ease. And what this will do is kind of smoothly blend the animations, the previous state of the curve to the new state of the curve. We want to, I'm holding Control, grabbing this down to B. So this is our target. And we're going to make A, where it was before, the new head rotator. And then we're going to move this over and plug this into the output of the ease. You can play around with the type of ease and the alpha all you want. I think I used this before with a value of 0.33. And you can kind of see now, even when you scrub, there's a little bit of settling there on the head. But this makes the whole thing look a whole lot nicer. So that's that step. Now that we know that works, there's a few other things you can do. Let's say that you have an animation that is a little aggressive. Right here, for example, maybe I'm saying that head is going up a little too high, and I would rather not see the head go up that high in this animation. What you can do is you can pull off of the ease and lerp the rotator. And I'm going to hold Control again and drag this down to B so that my 0 value of the alpha is nothing, and the full value at 1 is going to be our actual head rotation. We're going to move that over and plug this in here. Probably shortest path, sure. So then we have an alpha value. If we drag off of that and we can promote it to a variable, we can call this new head rotation alpha. Now we have a variable that we can drive from other things in our world. For this example, I'm just using a basic metahuman character. But if you have an actual game that you're making, maybe this is a character, maybe this is something that has gameplay on it as well, an NPC. So if you open up your blueprint for this, you can create a new variable on that blueprint called head rotation alpha. And if you set it to exposed to cinematics, then you can read it through sequencer and control it there. Or you can drive it with gameplay or animation curves. I just find it's better to have it on something not the post-process blueprint because it is a little buggy with sequencer. So if you want to see this in action, now that we have our head rotation alpha on our character, it'll show up here because we said exposed to cinematics. So we can add head rotation alpha. And now at this stage, let's say this is a little too extreme. You can set it to 0. And it's still there. Why? Because we didn't hook it up. So we need to get our owning actor, because this is just a metahuman character. It's not an actual Unreal character or a pawn or anything like that. And for this example, we're just going to cast straight to it. So I'm going to type cast metahuman test character. This is where you can get that value. So get head rotation alpha. This is the variable that we made on that character. And then instead of this just sitting here doing nothing, we're going to drag it in and we're going to set it from the character's variable. So we'll plug that in there, bring that over there, and now this is being driven at runtime by that variable. So as you can see now, we've removed all the head animation. Set this to 1, it comes back, and now you can blend it in and out based on your needs. Like I said, this can also be driven by animation curves or other float variables. You can be creative and decide what fits your needs best. Now that we have that set up, I want to show you one more trick. So let's say you have a character that is not in sequencer. You want this for gameplay. You want to have players talk to each other. What I did here is set up a really simple way to test this. So I made 2 events, play body montage and play face montage. So I right-clicked add custom event. And on your event, you can do add call in editor. That's what this little icon means there now. From there, I'm just playing these animations. They're not montages, so I'm playing them as dynamic montages and playing them on a default slot on the body. This requires that your body has an animation blueprint. For this one, I just made the simplest one I could. It just looks like this. It has a default slot and a animation playing on it for an idle. The same thing has to be done on the face though. So the face by default now in the newer Metahuman or newer Unreal Engine doesn't have a default anim class. So I just created one there. I'm not going to go over all of that, how to do all that, but inside of this, it just has a default slot and it's just copying the pose from the attached parent. This just gets the head animation from the body movement onto your basic head, and then it's running a default slot. You might not even need this, but so now that both of those have an animation blueprint, which is the anim instance, you can call this to play on default slot. I just made an array variable with a bunch of different animations to play randomly, and I only have one face animation, so I'm just playing that anytime I click this button. And all these buttons are cool because they show up here. There's that custom event we made. I can get rid of that. Already did. Just recompile. Okay. So now let me turn off my sequence player here. Now if we simulate, our character is playing that animation blueprint that we have. If you click on the character, I'm going to hit this lock button so that he's not all highlighted all the time, and then I can deselect him and still access this. So now if I hit the play body animation, it's blending into a montage. And if I hit play face animation, he plays that. But now we can play any montage on the body while the face is playing. And this is just an example of how this works with playing things in runtime. This is just a raw face capture playing over any kind of body animation. And it all works. All right, now I'm going to show you one more thing that I worked on last night because I was kind of excited about trying something. One thing I noticed about this is that even though you are playing your facial animation over top of your body, as we can see here, I was a little annoyed that the body doesn't also move with the head, because your head doesn't just move in isolation. That movement should have a little bit of an effect on your body. If somebody wants a bigger tutorial on this, I can try to do that, but I created a control rig, and I want to show you the results of that because it's pretty cool. So we're feeding in the head transform. I'm getting the face of the character because the face is a different animation blueprint. It's playing its own thing. The body animation doesn't know anything about it. So we're going to get the anim instance from that. I'm going to get those values again. This could just be a rotator. It's a transform because I was trying other things. And so then exposing that pin, plugging that variable in there that has to already be created in the control rig. This is kind of a mess, but I'm not going to go over all of what this is doing, but it's basically adding in those controls at various intensities and offsetting some bones and doing some interpolation and then running it into a full body IK that only affects the spine. So I'm going to show you what that looks like plugged in. So that's on. So I probably need to stop and restart. Now if we play the face animation, we got some cool torso movement in there. This could be a lot more, you could do a lot more with this. I just started messing with it. But I thought it was a really cool like addition to getting this to play on just on the face, but also have it affect the body. And this works layered on top of whatever your body's actually doing. So we took away his idle pose, so he's just T-posing, just so you can see it moving more freely, and then we can plug this back in if you want to see. I stop and restart because sometimes when you mess with that, it doesn't always work. So you have to restart sometimes, but you should be able to see that motion layered over top of this as well. Anyway, if you want to see that more in depth, maybe I'll work on it a little bit more and turn it into something. But I hope this tutorial was helpful for everybody. Took a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but that's what I got. Thanks.